Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Valerie Ploumpis. I'm Equality California's National Policy Director, and I'm based here in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much to the generous support of AT&T Foundation and Sempra Energy, Equality California is able to help the LGBTQ plus community respond to the COVID-19 crisis. So if you haven't already done so, I suggest you look at our website. Equality California has created this website, COVID-19@eqca.org, and it's intended to help people navigate these seriously challenging times. Our website provides resources and links to all sorts of services, including employment, housing, food assistance, legal aid, domestic violence, et cetera, that are being provided at the federal, at the state, and the local level. Equality California has also been hosting a number of these webinars. This is our 5th one. We're trying to help people deal with the economic fallout from COVID. So as I said, today is our 5th webinar series. So today's topic is starting a business during COVID. This is a discussion we hope will be resonating with a lot of people. Maybe they're pivoting their side hustles into full-time work, or thinking about maybe new opportunities that result from the economic disruption since the pandemic started in March. For people who have personal circumstances, we've also established the telephone helpline. This is something that people can use. They can ask personal questions about their situations, and they get a call back from someone on staff. We have several people on our staff, including me. We answer the phones and we call back. A lot of the calls that we've received have been gotten from people who have lost their jobs and their benefits and really need help. So if you're one of those people, please don't hesitate to contact us. We'd love to help you and try to put you together with the resources that you need. So today's webinar is going to be amazing. We have 2 guest speakers today from StartOut. This is a nonprofit that helps LGBTQ entrepreneurs and people who are interested in developing their own businesses. I believe that they've got a membership of more than 17,000 people. They've got events, all sorts of things. And our 2 speakers are Angelic Williams. She's a senior program manager of StartOut. And Nick Yeast, he's a member of StartOut, and he's also a founder of 2 different businesses. One is a fragrance business, and the other was freight and logistics. So 2 very different kinds of businesses. And we've seen a lot of the sort of creative thinking that comes from people who are facing challenging times. So as always, our webinars are going to be recorded. They'll remain accessible on our website. There's a Q&A box on the website. So if you have any questions for our guest speakers, please put them in there. They won't be visible to anybody else who's on the webinar, just our speakers, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. So as always, after our webinars, we send out the link to the recording. We have other resources that are available. The website is evergreen, so we continue to post information about not today's webinar, but also past webinars. So please keep in touch with us. Let us know how we can help you. So Angelique and Nick, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're really delighted to have you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. So excited to be here.
Awesome. So Angelique, I think that you're going to get us started. I believe on our first website, when you first logged on, there were some poll questions. I don't know if we have the answers to the polls, but they may help to guide our direction of today's lecture. So if you can see the screen, there are some questions. You can post them, and our panelists will be able to get a sense of what people are looking for and how we might be best able to help you. Angelique, if I could turn it over to you, maybe you could share your screen with us and let us know what we should know.
Yes, definitely. Let me do that right now. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay. So hello, everyone. As Valerie mentioned, my name is Angelic Williams. Here we go. I am the senior program manager at StartOut, so I work directly with all of our founder members, with our investors, with our community partners. Prior to being at StartOut and currently, while being at StartOut, I am also the founder and CEO of My Umbrella, which is an online platform that serves as a creative outlet for members of the LGBTQ plus community. Prior to that, and slightly concurrently with that, up until last year, I was the founding chapter lead for the San Francisco chapter of Black Women Talk Tech, which is a national organization promoting Black entrepreneurs and employees in tech. My tips in general for entrepreneurship is never lose your North Star, building your network, and don't be your own worst critic. Nick and I will probably get into this a little bit later about these things, but just quickly, your North Star, understanding your why are you doing something? What is the purpose? Because entrepreneurship is hard. And so if you don't have a really strong reason why you're doing it, it's just not going to be fun. Second is building your network. I am a solo founder. Nick is a solo founder in one of his companies. He's co-founders in his other. But in general, entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey. It's very isolating. And the more entrepreneurs you have in your network and service providers and people that can support you, it's just really going to help you get through. And also, don't be your own worst critic. If you're an entrepreneur, you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you're probably very creative and you're probably very, 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 very hard on yourself, and it's unfair. And oftentimes we hold ourselves to deadlines and things that only exist in our head, and we beat ourselves up for not doing something that no one else knew about except for us. And so definitely give yourself some grace, because as I said, it's hard and no one's perfect and no one's a machine. So for my section, I'm really just going to talk about StartOut, who we are, what we do, and what we offer. So I'll just be going over the mission, the outreach, and the programs. So StartOut's mission is to increase the number, diversity, and impact of LGBTQ founders and amplify their stories to drive economic empowerment. What that effectively means is that we support LGBT entrepreneurs so that they can forward their business, potentially raise money, and create jobs in the economy. The history of the organization, we've been around since 2009, so this is the 11th year. We have a community that spans across the globe. About 90% or so are in the US, but in total it's about 17,000 members that have been a part of StartOut. We have about 5,600 founder members, meaning entrepreneurs that are in our system. We organize 80 events in 6 different chapter cities, and there's talks of expanding into other cities right now as well as in other countries. Typically, these events are held in person. So the Austin chapter has their Austin events, the New York chapter has the New York events, and the SF chapter has our events. And we only go to our own events. But because of COVID, everything is virtual. So things are open to everyone. Doesn't matter if you live in the area or not. So that's been really great, because we've been able to reach places that we normally would not be able to. And just a little bit of an extra tip on StartOut. So it really started as a networking organization. It started as purely events-based and meeting other queer entrepreneurs and people in the tech space. And slowly but surely, people started requesting more resources. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, the founder programs really came into play. And that's really what we're focused on now. And I'll get into a little bit of that right now and some of it a little bit later. But for StartOut, we offer 3 tiers of support. So the first level is community support, which means we have a network, which is effectively kind of like a LinkedIn, where you can find service providers, entrepreneurs, investors. We have a forum that's a social network. You can get resources, talk about different things, get advice. The events, as I've said, and then research. So when we say research, recently StartOut launched a StartOut Pride Economic Impact Index. It's called SPEII on the website. And it really talks about the disparity of investment funding for LGBT entrepreneurs versus non-LGBT entrepreneurs. You can break that down further by women. We're going to be breaking it down further by race and so on and so forth. But it's really showing how underfunded we are, as we all know, but some people need data to move the needle. It shows how underfunded we are, but also the amount of impact that we have with the little funding that we do get. So that's the community level. Then there's the founder level. It comes with an application, and it's really just asking information about you, about your business. And through those, we offer 3 things. We have office hours, expert office hours. So between entrepreneurship, marketing, public relations, and fundraising, we have 4 experts where you can schedule time with them. You can use that resource as much as you want, whenever you want. We offer mentorship, so that's a one-on-one matching. And so as a part of the application, they talk about what areas of support do you need? Is it legal? Is it engineering? Is it operations? What is it? And then we have a pool of mentors that are both identify as LGBTQ and non-LGBTQ. And then we match them up, and that's a 6-month commitment, 2 hours a month, to help you further your business. And the investor portal, StartOut has a network of 230 accredited investors, both institutional and angel investors. And our new founders that are raising, we showcase them monthly. If there's a new founder that comes in or a new investor that comes in, we scan the portal to find if there's a potential match. We reach out to those investors and say, hey, I think you might want to talk to these people. If they say yes, we make that introduction. And it really is just trying to help level the playing field. And so the top level that we have is the Growth Lab, which is a 6-month accelerator. It happens twice a year. The application period just closed for the fall. And that is where we have about 5 to 6 entrepreneurs, high growth entrepreneurs. And the definition of that is really, it's a scalable business. It has a lot of traction. It's more than just an idea. There has to be some type of MVP that we can work off of. It's thought of as an accelerator, not an incubator, which is the fundamental difference between those two. Incubators help pull the idea out. Accelerators help push the product that you've already created from this idea forward. And so we've had 6 cohorts. The 6th cohort is graduating on August 25th. You can register for that online if you like. We've had 29 startups come out of the Growth Lab. Collectively, they've raised $59 million and created over 250 jobs. StartOut's founders, members as a whole, has raised over $195 million. So that's really exciting. Our mentorship program, we've had almost 500 matches, almost 1,000 office hours. And so it's been a really good program. And I will say that one of the things of being a founder member, one of the different pieces, it's different from being a community member, is to be a founder member, you have to be a giving member. And so that is a $12 donation every month, or a $125 one-time annual donation. We do have scholarships available for people that are economically unable to do that. And so we have for Black founders, Latinx founders, women and non-binary. So if you apply and you need that, or a need-based scholarship. So a need-based is 6 months. The other 3 are 12 months. So if you need that, we're happy to offer those resources to you so you can have access to the programs. With that, I will hand it off to Nick so he can tell you about his amazing story and everything he does.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Yeast. Super excited to be here. Thank you, Quality California, for inviting us on today to talk about starting a business during COVID-19. So I'm on the programming board for the San Francisco StartOut chapter. I've been on the board this entire year. Applied late November and got accepted in. And we had our first meeting in January. We've been hitting the ball ever since, plenty of different events within our network. I am also the founder and CEO of the Ricardo collection. And we are a gender neutral fragrance brand breaking gender barriers in the beauty and cosmetic industry. And I'm also the founder and president of Jackson and Yeast Logistics. And we are a freight transportation company servicing the southern US region of the United States. So let's see here. Let me see. I'm going to go to the next slide. All right, I'm just going to tell you all a little bit about my journey and how I kind of started this whole new entrepreneur track. So I'm born and raised in Kentucky, and I spent most of my adult years in Chicago. And there I worked for Marriott as an HR manager. And I wanted to do something different after having that position for a few years and decided to apply to be a flight attendant with an airline. So I ended up getting that position and moved to San Francisco. And I've been in San Francisco for about 4 years now, working on as a flight attendant, as well as starting my entrepreneur journey with Ricardo Collection. That's where Ricardo Collection was birthed in San Francisco back in 2018. And so, with the Ricardo Collection, just like any business that you do start, you have to ask yourself the questions on what is your why? And I started my gender neutral fragrance brand because I did see that there was a lack of the representation that was not being brought to us as queer folks of color. So I was just like, I feel like there needs to be something that I can relate to when it comes to the fragrance industry. I knew how fragrances made me feel, but I always felt that that narrative never fit me with my description on how I do. Excuse me, my house phone just rang a little bit. with any business, there's definitely going to be coming challenges. And, as a queer entrepreneur from the South, we had a lot of challenges just trying to find access for capital with starting this business. Also, this kind of the respect in the perfume space. You don't see a lot of Black-owned businesses within the perfume space. You don't see a lot of Black-owned perfumers. You don't see a lot of Black fragrance designers. So just to get into that space came a little bit of challenges. However, we've made it. You can actually see some of our products here. We had a wonderful Pride campaign this past June. And as far as the representation, what I was kind of talking about, you can see there's one of the models that I had for one of my fragrances within my collection. Okay. Now, so we're all here today for this topic, starting a business during COVID-19. A lot of people are probably like, you are absolutely crazy to be doing this. However, you are smart for doing this. And one of my favorite quotes right here, if the opportunity does not knock, build door. Okay, Hunty, build that door yourself. It is time for us to start creating our own systems. It is time for us to start creating our own policies and procedures. It is time for us to just start doing our own. And I'll tell you the reason. We're starting to see, we've seen, we've been in this pandemic for going on, 5 months now, or 6 months or longer, actually. And we're starting to see, governments have failed us. A lot of our jobs have failed us. So during that time, you kind of think, well, what am I supposed to do now? And this comes to my next slide, which is one of my favorite talk abouts. Let's talk about pivoting. And that is my new business that I actually just launched. We're about to launch in just a couple weeks, but LLC, everything is created. But this is my business now, Jackson Yeast Logistics. So I want to talk about pivoting. So let's do that. Go ahead to the next slide, Angie, for me. Ask yourself these questions. When starting your business, who do you want to serve? What problem does your new venture solve? Is it recession-proof? Are you looking for passive income or a business to scale? So who do you want to serve? What is your market? Like I said earlier, the pivot has never, you have just been laid off from your job. You see that with that job that, our corporate company that we've been working here for 15, 20, 25, 30 years has let us go. A lot of people are fearful of starting their own business because they say, well, I don't want to fail. Well, what's the difference when putting in so much work for a company that's failed you? It is really time, like I tell you people, it's really time to really start owning your own and doing your own thing. Very important. What does this problem solve? What is this new venture going to solve? If you look at the societal changes on what we're doing, especially with COVID-19, we're starting to see huge shifts with how we do business, how we communicate, how our communities are run now. So we need to take advantage of that, analyze that, tackle that, and go for it. Because that's exactly what all these people who are starting businesses, that's exactly what they're doing now. And I have a little thing right here. During the Great Depression in the 1920s, there were tons of businesses that were birthed during that time. We have General Motors, we have HP, we have Disney, Hyatt Hotels. A lot of those are products from really bad recessional issues. And you can also see back in 2008, during the last big recession that we did have, Uber was birthed, Square, a lot of these tech companies now, a lot of those were birthed out of depressions and recessions. And just like now, you should see, I don't have the exact numbers, but I can't quite remember exactly how many businesses and LLCs were actually created during this pandemic, but it is a lot. And let me tell you, my new LLC is one of those in the statistics. During this time, my business was, my Ricardo business, my fragrance business, it wasn't going well during the beginning stages of COVID-19. I noticed a dip in sales. E-commerce at the time was not doing well at all, just because we were scared. We did not know what moves we needed to take. We didn't know what avenues we needed to go. It was a lot going on. A lot of headspace was cluttered on what is going to be the new. We were trying to figure out, okay, is the government going to bail us out? I don't have a job. What are we going to do? So we're literally running around here with our heads cut off like a chicken, right? So I noticed a dip in my sales. So therefore, what that told me was, okay, this is a problem. How am I able to scale my current business? And what am I also able to do now that I just got laid off from the airlines myself? What am I able to do for supplemental income? So that comes with, if I'm going to be thinking of something, is this position, my business, going to be recession proof? And am I going to be looking for just a passive income to get me by? Or do I want a business to actually scale? The recession proof is very vague. And I put that in there just because I want to use an example of what a friend of mine is doing. She had dreamed of opening her own restaurant. And then she realized that, now with COVID, this could be a new norm for a long time. I know everyone's banking on vaccines or, something to come save the day, but a lot of shifts and a lot of changes that we have seen in our society now, they are definitely going to be stuck in place for a very, very long time. So with that is, what can I do to pivot and put myself in position so that way I am successful down the road, whether it's the next economic crash or this business just ends up being the newest thing just because. So let me see here. Can go to the next slide there. I like to tell the people to, utilize your resources. And I wanted to kind of go back to my friend who's starting her food truck company now. During COVID, restaurants were not open. We did see this. A lot of people were eating, were eating outside. A lot of people were going to a lot of different food trucks. Food trucks have gone up by 5% this summer alone. And if you think about San Francisco, where, restaurants are opening and they're closing, food trucks have lines. And she's just like, well, now I can't have my traditional restaurant that I wanted. I'm going to pivot and do this here. She has her food truck right now, and she's actually doing really, really well. I'm super proud of her, but that's just an example of how we're all pivoting. Jackson and Yeast logistics, I have opened this summer, and we're actually going to be hauling our first freight in a few weeks. That just came from me utilizing my resources here. I wanted to see, what is it that is still moving? What is it that is still recession proof? There has got to be something, because whatever is going on now is not working for me. It's not working for any of us. So I'm going to pivot myself and place myself right where I need to be successful. And that's exactly what I did. And I utilized these resources. Luckily, the San Francisco LGBT Center has business consultants pro bono. And I reached out to business consultants and just like, what is the market census? Like, what is everyone, like, where are you going to see the shift? And they just kind of, positioned themselves to say, well, I kind of see that, this is still going, this is moving. All right, what you just said, I want to go back and do my own research. You all, I want to also talk to you about this right here. This device here, I was on YouTube back in March, and I found out about, opening up your own trucking company. And to a lot of people, that's a very, very daunting task. Like, a lot of people with businesses, they don't necessarily think of how the behind the scenes and really identify and look to see what these shifts are. During the whole closure, what was still moving on the road? Freight, transportation. People are still going to these essential businesses such as, your Targets, your grocery stores, and, everywhere else. And they still have to have freight there. They still have to have their shipment there to service us when we go. I took that opportunity and I ran with it. And that's just an example of how you can identify an opportunity within our current systems and run with it. And you want to effectively do that. YouTube University is probably the best thing that could ever happen when it comes to learning about businesses, when it comes to just learning about self-development and growth. I took to YouTube and studied. I took virtual seminars. Social media, Google has tons of resources for you to identify what is the need in the current market. What are my skills? I can apply that. I'm going to start offering these services. And of course, join StartOut, as it is a huge resource with a lot of growing entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs as well. So I want to kind of go back to the whole YouTube talk. It is actually really funny because I knew that I wanted to start my business, but it was capital. I didn't have a lot of the capital at the time. Mind you, this was just, 6 months ago. So what can I do in between time? I'm not kidding here when I tell you this. YouTube was able, because of what I found out on YouTube, I was able to put money into launching my current business. I found out about flipping medical commodities, and I'm not going to go too much into detail with that, but basically I help people, pay them in cash on what they on their diabetic test strips that they're going to end up being expired, or they're going to throw them away. And I basically will flip them into other businesses that can sell them as well. It may sound like a lot of work, but until you do your research, you realize, like, I can't believe this is a legal way to make money. So that's what I'm saying. You have got to understand and really take action, because we can look at videos all day long, but if you don't take the action, then what's the point? So same thing with social media, virtual seminars. Once I realized that I wanted to start this trucking company, podcast after podcast with people who are in the industry, done. Check mark, let's go. Social media, I followed you, I'm reaching out to you, I want to do this. And then come to find out that the capital that was needed, it really wasn't that much that I needed in the first place. And I was just like, okay, I can actually do this. Come June, I filed for my LLC. And yesterday, I just picked up our truck, the 26-foot box truck. And then I have interviews on Saturday for someone to drive our truck. And in 2 weeks, we're going to be hauling our first load. And it's just funny, just because, when you think about starting a business during a pandemic, people would just think that you're absolutely crazy, when in reality, if you don't take the necessary moves, you're going to be left behind. And that's the last thing that we want. No one wants to be left behind in the game, correct? And can't stress this, what's going on around you. Look at what's working now. Our virtual life is how we're able to do this. That's how I'm able to speak to you all today. I didn't have to fly anywhere to speak in a boardroom. We're starting to realize that old systems like that could potentially be discarded, where we're just interacting like this. So for all of our event planners out there, are you scaling your event planning business now to be virtually online? Or how creative are you able to do that? The most creative people are entrepreneurs. And let me tell you, you're starting to see a lot pop up. And I know how much we're online. I know how much we're on social media. And I know you all are seeing this too. It's like, wow, this person's doing this. Wow, this company just shifted that way or launched this. You have got to pay attention to the societal shifts that are going on in our country, in our world. Everything is changing. You have got to identify, all right, what are these changes? I want that. I'm going to take it and I'm going to apply it, tackle it, and do it. Okay? And let me see here. You can go to the next. Now, I'm not quite done yet, but I have some notes here as well. Starting a business is really not as scary as what you all think, because especially now, a lot of us have the time. A lot of us have been laid off, like I said, and this is the time now to open up your cupcake business. This is the time now to finally get that candle company going. You've been wanting to do consultant work. You had an HR job. Now that you're laid off, all these new virtual businesses that are popping up, and all these businesses that are popping up, they're going to end up needing somebody with some type of background. Offer your services now online like that. If you never thought about it, I'm telling you, look into it. The days of going to an office and perhaps working for a company could be looking completely different 10 years from now. So are you going to be able to set yourself up for success now, or are you going to wait when it's harder? I'm telling you all, Facebook stock was $1 back in 2007, 2008. Look at it now. And this right now, I was telling my friend the other day, like the current state that we're in now is our 2008. Back then, you know, the digital era was getting bigger, but a lot of people were still kind of confused and kind of just looking at it like, okay, I'll see how this goes. But looking back, now they're like, dang, if I just tackled it then, if I would have just done it, if I would have just started now. I don't want to be that person. I don't want you all to be that person. So that's why I'm telling you, whatever idea that you have, whatever move you want to make, this is the perfect time to do that on so many different reasons. I was able to get my truck at a complete discount because not too many people are buying. However, the freight industry, the transportation industry, a $800 billion industry, is up by 43% right now, more than last year. And that's projected to go further. So that's what I'm saying. You have got to pay attention to what is happening and use that towards your advantage. And let me see, I didn't want to, talk too long just because I know that, we don't have, I can really go on for days and, talk about this. It's just so, interesting. But, before like leaving, I just want to let y'all know, like, whatever that you want to do, utilize those resources, talk to those people. There's going to be someone that can get you in the right direction. And if this entrepreneur bug that you do have, don't sleep on it. Don't take it and put it onto the side. This is the time to act now. I mean, things are happening, people, and we have got to pay attention. It's a weird time, but at the same time, it's also an exciting time as well, because like I said, 10 years from now, when we look back on this decade, you're going to be thanking yourself for making this move. I'm not kidding. And I say that just because I'm so excited right now for the business world. And a lot of people are like, how can you say that? Companies are literally going down. Companies are literally closing. Like, how can you say that? Well, yes, those companies are closing or, doing whatever, outsourcing, whatever. However, I'm here to tell you this, the virtual digital world is something totally different, and it's only going to get bigger. Now to have the time, so I really want you all to just go for it, and just go for it. That's really all I have when it comes to this talk. And this is my information here. This is my email address, and you can find my fragrance brand on Instagram. Feel free to message me. Just like you all 5 months ago, I was coming on seminars just like this, just trying to learn how I can pivot and what I can do. There was a lot of handouts that were happening. A lot of us who were on unemployment, we got that extra $600. We had that stimulus check, and if you are able, the smart move would have been to invest into something, whether it's a small investment to, like I said, get your cupcakes going. Before you know it, now your whole neighborhood knows about your cupcake business. Now your whole city knows about it. Now you built a platform on Instagram, and before you know it, you're getting sales coming in, and you're getting your website going, you're getting that going, and it's just like, wow, I was not expecting this. That's what I'm saying. You have got to take advantage of what's happening now to the best of your ability. And whatever the government is handing out to you, you best be the first one in line. I'm telling you, baby, be the first one in line, because that investment into that, or that little bit of capital, can shoot you to the roof. And like I'm telling you all, let's not sleep on this. So if you really are wanting to start a business, or you're looking to scale a business, this is the time. The digital life isn't going anywhere. This is the time. So thank you.
Thanks, Nick. I know you and I talk a lot, but I didn't know half of that stuff about how you started this trucking company, because I had questions, but I had no idea that you started it from YouTube. So before I close out our formal portion of the presentation, because I know we do want to leave a fair amount of time for Q&A, I have one question for you. What did you major in college?
I majored in hospitality management.
Okay, so I asked that question because if you listen to Nick's story, he majored in hospitality management, he went to go work at Marriott, then he became a flight attendant, then he made perfume, and now he has a trucking company. The reason I say that is because myself, I majored in architecture and real estate development. I worked in architecture and real estate development. Then I started a social media company, and now I'm doing other tech stuff. And the point is that you don't have to, a lot of people are hindered. I mean, money is obviously a hindrance at times, for sure. But the number one thing that stops people before money is, I didn't go to school for this, or I don't know how to do this, or, you know, I didn't go to good enough school, even if I did go to school. And the point I really want to make here is both myself and Nick, when we started our entrepreneurial journeys, we were not connected. We didn't have, you know, someone that was going to write a blank check and say, here, go figure it out. You just start building your network, and it takes time, but you can absolutely do it. And so really that's what I want to close it with. Obviously for StartOut, part of building that network, you know, you can attend our events, you can check out the membership portal, explore the founder member resources, as I mentioned, here they are again. And to Nick's point, you know, we've had, for the community, these virtual events, we've had people in the Bahamas, in Africa, in Croatia. It's like, it's crazy where people are coming from. And as far as the Growth Lab, as I mentioned, the application period just closed. We typically receive 50 to 60 applications in any given time for each cohort. This year, for this 7th cohort, we received 113 applications. We're reviewing the general founder applications that have come through this year. Between January and June 30th, the first 6 months of this year, we had 122 new applications. In the past 6 weeks, we've had 94 new applications. So that just goes to show you that people are thinking about doing something. People are trying to explore, trying to figure it out. And the fact of the matter is, maybe the idea that you started with isn't the idea you end up with, but that's okay. It's just a part of the journey. A couple of additional resources. Alice, you can check them out at helloalice.com. They have a lot of great resources and for their members, and great forums there. The LA Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce also, as Nick mentioned, check out your free resources. They have those. SoGal is centered on female entrepreneurs. And again, they have a lot of great free resources and support there too. So with that, we will turn it back to Valerie and we can get into some Q&A. But thank you guys for your time. As Nick said, reach out to us. Happy to answer any questions after this event.
I like how those presentations were so.
Did we lose Valerie? Or is it just me?
Began. Welcome to Equality California's 5th webinar. This is starting your own business. We've had 2 amazing speakers. We've got a chat box at the bottom of the screen if you'd like to ask questions of our panelists with regard to starting a business during COVID. So we have a couple of questions that have come into the chat box, and I'd love to ask them about it. But the first one I wanted to ask you has to do with market research. How did both of you start? How did you sort of survey the field? You know, what are some of the things that people should be thinking about when they're starting their own businesses?
I think that, you know, kind of like what I explained earlier was just, I'm aware of a lot of things going around for me, correct? So, you know, I remember even just driving and just seeing, wow, there's like so many trucks on the road. Why? Where are they going? Like, how are they making the moves now during the middle of a pandemic? And then I'm one of those people that would go back to my phone, get on Google and just, you know, research and be like, oh, I see, it's still moving. I feel like this is a great opportunity. I'll, you know, read a lot of, you know, Money Watch, you know, CNN Money, you know, just read what the societal shifts are and look at the economic shifts as well to see where people are putting their money. Are they, you know, is cryptocurrency going to be a thing? I don't know. is this what we're heading? You know, so it's just one of the things, just being aware, and don't be so quick also to, you know, dismanage all what you see, because a lot of it, I'm telling you, like we were having this conversation 12 years ago and look now. So just be very, very aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah, I would say on my end, it was really circumstantial. Some things that just happened that made me start thinking about, you know, where where can I connect with other queer people? Do these things exist? And again, as Nick said, Google's your friend. And I Googled like LGBT social networks, and it just dating sites kept coming up, and it wasn't what I wanted, and it just wasn't there. I will say though that, so definitely start Googling, then start figuring out how do you, then Google how to start trucking company, how to build an app, how to develop a marketing agency. That there's tons of things on there where that's all you do. Just type in exactly what you're thinking and something will pop back. One thing I will say though is I would not get discouraged if you see someone else doing the exact same thing. And that's really hard because as an entrepreneur, like, oh, someone already did it, so maybe I can't do that. And one of my mentors told me one of the funniest but most accurate things. And he goes, okay, well, when you go to a grocery store and you want to buy bread, how many types of bread are there in this aisle? And he's like, hundreds of bread types, but you like this one particular brand. So just because there's 99 bread brands in an aisle doesn't mean there can't be space for 100. So.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. So we have a question in the chat box, and it said, Angelique and Nick, have you experienced or faced challenges as Black LGBTQ plus business owners? And especially for Nick, in a business where, or in an industry where there typically isn't a lot of LGBTQ plus representation?
Yeah, great question. This is a huge pivot for me. I'm coming from the e-commerce space of gender neutral fragrances to where my flamboyant brand is very out there as far as being, very, equality driven, Black owned driven, queer driven. So to take all of that to be in a logistics type of company, which is predominantly ran by white men, it is daunting. I haven't faced too much of hassle, being, Black and queer in this industry. Like I said, I'll be going, the feet's not completely wet yet, so we'll see. But I'll tell you what, for Nick Ricardo within my fragrance brand, in the beginning, there were a few challenges. There's not a lot of representation, like I was telling you earlier, with being Black in the perfume space. So the perfume side, you see it predominantly with white men. So it's just kind of a little daunting when you see that, and you just wonder, is my brand going to be good enough? Imposter syndrome is very much real. And if you don't see the representation, then of course imposter syndrome definitely sits in your spirit there. So it's just one of those things that you just have to, put that in the back of your head, be like, okay, I know that my avenue to success may look like this, rather than just like that. And you just have to be ready to work harder, which is unfortunate, but you just have to have that drive and keep going. That's the thing. Keep going and consistency. And, if I was gonna be stopped just because I am Black and queer, I would have not gotten anywhere. And I still have a long way to go. So keep going and keep being consistent and stay true to who you are.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of that. And for me, the two industries I was in before, architecture and real estate development, are both, I always joke, so diverse, so equal. And it's always, always, always 60 to 80-year-old white men running everything. And so, when I was a kid, I was giving a presentation and for architecture, and my dad said, I'm looking around this room and, there's mostly white guys in this room. And if this is what you want to do, you need to understand.
The question in the chat box.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, I think that my internet was a little bit unstable here. Go ahead and please finish.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying, he was saying, if this is going to be a barrier for you, like you need to get out now because it's never going to get any easier. I will say that it's tricky. And I think Nick has experienced this as well, but it's tricky for me a lot of the times because, you go to, for me, on my own, like I go to like female events and it's mostly white women. So, there's always that sense of other. Well, it's a women event and it's mostly white women. You go to a Black event and it's like, oh, you're, okay. And there's that little like correction about homophobia within the Black community that you have to sort of combat. And then you go to queer spaces and it's, again, mostly white men. And so, I would say socially, that's probably where myself, and I would venture to say Nick, have experienced the most hassle. But as far as running a business, no.
That's great. We have a couple of other questions in the chat box. One of them has to do with creating a formal business plan. Do you think this is necessary for entrepreneurs before they're getting started?
Absolutely. The number one thing is protect yourself, protect your name, protect your brand. If it doesn't matter what you're going to do, if you're going to sell just one item, and if you sold one item to one person, or you're just in the beginning stages of developing your business plan or your business, whatever, you have got to legally protect yourself just like that. The number one thing I did when I knew I was going to start Jackson Yeast Logistics was go ahead and create my LLC. And we all know the importance of an LLC. And if you don't, an LLC protects you from your personal assets. So if something should happen to your business, they're not going to be coming to your personal assets. And if you really want, to scale your business credit, if you want to, just expand in other networks, an LLC is pretty much a must-have in order to be a sustainable, successful business. So yes, my number one, get an LLC, get that EIN number, and you can do wonders with that when it comes to taxes at the end of the year and just anything, period. Get the LLC.
Yeah, I definitely the tax thing. Like if you spend $10,000 on your business and you made no money, it's great because you can write that off on your taxes. And so if you make $50,000 a year, you suddenly only owe taxes as if you made $40,000 because business losses. Obviously, if you make a lot of money, you have to pay more taxes, but that's a good problem to have. As far as business plans, I mean, definitely, I wouldn't say to write like a 60-page prospectus. Like that's generally not necessary, especially in the beginning, but you need to have a plan of where you're going. You need to have like a roadmap of what are you doing. And I don't mean you have to have every nook and cranny figured out, but it's like, okay, I'm going to start a fragrance company. Okay, well, how do fragrances get made? Where do I get the bottling? Like, where's the manufacturing come in? Like, you have to start thinking through these pieces. And I get it, it's super overwhelming, but you have to, because otherwise you're just going to be pulled in every single direction. Every time something comes up, you're going to be like, ooh, 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 and that's not okay. Like you can ooh, ooh when you've done your job already. But if you don't have a plan, you're just going to keep bouncing all over the place.
That's great. And I assume that to StartOut has workshops on how to, approach lawyers, how to set up the LLC, how to get business licensing. Is that the sort of thing that you can offer resources and help for?
Yeah, we definitely have different seminars, some for marketing, some for legal, some for fundraising. So yeah, it kind of covers the whole gamut. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So we have another question in the chat box. It says, when is the next cohort of StartOut Growth Lab?
So for this application period that just closed, that cohort will be starting in October. For the next cohort will be next spring. So the application period should be opening up in January. But again, if you get on the mailing list, you will see it. It will come through.
So there's another question from Vanessa, and it has to do with bringing on business partners or bringing on employees. What are the pitfalls of that? What are the benefits? I don't know if either one of you have had those experiences with working with others, employing others, and what the risk might be there.
Angie probably could, kind of speak on that when it comes to get investors, but I will say that I am actually hiring my first employee by this weekend, and it's all a learning experience. Luckily, I have a really nice circle of mentors, people like Ange and people from StartOut, and as well as other networks who are, I'm just going to say, holding my hand during this process, just because sometimes that's what you need in order to have a successful business, or in order for your business to be successful, is you need to have that circle of people. But I'm sure Angie can speak more on, getting investors and along that in there.
Yeah, and Nick, something you just said that I forgot to mention earlier in terms of resources. I know that Facebook does a lot of things, a lot of terrible things, but Facebook groups are such a great resource. There's so many entrepreneurship ones, whether it's queer, Black, fragrance, shoes, whatever. There's so many groups, and in those groups, people ask these types of questions like, you know, has anyone had this experience? What have you done? How should I handle this? And people are really, really helpful. And I learned so much personally and professionally in those groups. As far as bringing on partners, employees, all of that, listen, if it makes you uncomfortable, like you get like a really weird feeling in your stomach, especially when it comes to a partner or an investor, you got to walk away. I don't care if you need their help. I don't care if you need their money. If you don't feel good about it, you have to walk away, because when you partner with someone, it's like, it's basically a marriage. Like you have to work together. And specifically as it relates to co-founders, one of the things that's most important is to have what's called a vesting schedule. And it basically says that over 4 years, the equity that has been allotted to you will be accumulated. So after 1 year, you get 25% of whatever equity percentage you're supposed to be getting. And then you'll incrementally get that over 4 years until we get to 100. The reason why that's important is because if me and Nick start a company today, we're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're jazzed up, blah, 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 we're best friends, it's all going to work out. And 6 months later, he's like, oh, I hate you. Like, I'm out of here. I'm leaving this company. Go kick rocks. He's going to walk away with 50% of equity, of dead equity that I can't get back. And if the business goes well and it sells for $100 million, well, he gets 50% and he did nothing. Love you, Nick, but he did nothing. And so it's definitely protect your equity. Same thing with employees. If you can, definitely start as contractors, because you don't want to get tied into that situation, especially if you're pre-revenue. You do not, I know a founder, I was talking to him the other day, pre-revenue, pre-launch, his expenses are $5,000 a month for his business. That's not his personal life. And to me, I'm so stressed out. That stressed me out. Versus myself, I'm bootstrapped, I do my own thing. I think my monthly expenses are $400 a month. So definitely keep your expenses down. Definitely don't tie yourself into something long-term, because you will pivot and things will change, and you don't want to be locked into things that you can't get out of.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. That's excellent advice. I don't see, let's see. So we have a fan mail. It says, Nick, you definitely have a career as a motivational speaker waiting for you. Thank you. And we've gotten several other thanks to our speakers in the chat box. One of the things you talked about a little bit about, Nick, has to do with imposter syndrome. And one of the things, Angelique, that you talked about has to do with mentoring. So I was wondering if you could just make like a couple of comments, each one of you. You know, we only have a few more minutes of our webinar, but if you've got some points and some thoughts, that might be really helpful for our audience.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is real. It's real no matter what stage of your business you're at. You know, there's beyond that, I'll let Nick speak to more of that, but beyond imposter syndrome, there's something that people like to call analysis paralysis, which means like, you know what you need to do, but you don't do it. And I think like you analyze something so deeply that you don't move. And for me, I think it's a misnomer. I personally call it execution paralysis, because I know what I got to do. I just can't bring myself to do it, because if I do it and it works, then I got to do this stuff over here. Then this is going to happen. And, oh, what if I can't live up to that moment? Or if it works and I fail, then what are people going to think? And then, yeah, then I'm not the person that I thought I was going to be. And it's those things. And it's not something that's easy to get over. I still struggle with it. I know that Nick still struggles with it. But again, you have to have that network of people that are going to tell you like, girl, you got this. Like, stop playing around. Or, you know, like my friends, like, we're very straightforward. It's like, if you don't do this, I'm going to come over there and punch you in the head because you're being stupid. Like, it's just like, you know, you got to have someone to like, jar you out of it. And at the end of the day, you know, there's some things that have happened to me very recently that to me are bigger than what I personally feel that I'm qualified for. But at the end of the day, what pushes me forward and past that imposter syndrome is, if I don't do this, am I going to regret it? Because if I do it and it becomes nothing, then whatever. I'm in the exact same position that I am right now. And that's not a terrible position. But if I don't do it and it becomes something, I'm going to kick myself for the rest of my natural born life because I did not take the leap. And if you can live with that level of regret, kudos. But if you can't, you got to go try and find out.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Going back on imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is extremely real, and I can't stress that enough. However, one of the ways that I deal with that is just knowing, like, I got this. I can do it. If they can do it, so can I. I may not look like you. However, that's not me. I don't deserve a seat at this table as well. We all deserve a seat at the table, and sometimes that table may be dominated by another, but however, I'm able to sit here too. And one of the ways that I was able to deal with still dealing, with imposter syndrome is having that circle, having those friends who I can call on and be like, just straight up, girl, I'm stressed. I don't know if I'm good enough for this, or someone needs to come over here and help me, or, something along those lines like that. And then just like, Ange said, like, you got this. Like, really? Why are you tripping right now? Just that hype man in the back. People who are other entrepreneurs as well, who are successful. Like, there are a lot of my mentors within my logistics company right now are, African American. I haven't come across the queer ones yet, but I'm sure I will. Whether I'm the first, that'd be good, because like I said, representation matters, right? But luckily, like, my circle within the logistics company are a group of Black folk who are actually, killing it and are industry leaders in this. So I was able, the difference between my fragrance company and this one, going into that, I'm making completely different moves, business moves than I did, a few years ago when I started my fragrance company. I learned so much from that. I know how I felt during that with imposter syndrome, and, going around the second time, I just, I said, I rebuke you. I'm not going to have this same mindset. I'm not going to go down this slippery slope. I want to do something. I'm going to do something different eternally for myself to make sure, like, I'm going to continue to be successful with this. So that circle is extremely huge on who do you have to help you deal with certain anxieties like that.
Thank you both so much. That is so helpful and inspirational. And I don't know, it just sort of feels like sort of a collective hug, thinking about, like, starting and then maintaining the energy and the confidence in oneself to get going. I think we have a final poll question that might be coming up, and it has to do with our webinar. If you found this webinar helpful, if you could answer our poll, really helps us, guide the next webinars. As I mentioned at the top of the hour, this is the 5th of our 10 webinars, and so we would love to know, if this has been helpful to you. Also, as I mentioned, after the webinar, we'll send a link to the recording for everyone who's participated. It'll stay on our website. If you've got further questions, please let us know. We can send them to our speakers. Also, if our speakers, if you have anything that you want to share with us later on, some of the websites that you use and found helpful, we'll be happy to post those to our networks. And I assume that maybe you'll be open on LinkedIn or some of these other social media platforms, so people can network with you and join StartOut and have an ongoing conversation, if not with you, with other members. 17,000 people across the world is an incredible support system.
Yeah, absolutely. I am just going to drop my LinkedIn in the chat, but yes, feel free.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, we'd love to thank both of you, Angelique and Nick. You've been just amazing. I've learned so much personally. I really feel sort of buoyed by this. I think that you're really able to help our communities, support during this COVID time. When Nick was talking about, like it seems like a crazy time to throw yourself out there, be an entrepreneur. But at the same time, opportunities are offered during times of great stress and crisis. And you've, I think, really helped us identify some places what we could do and have the resources and wind beneath our wings to sort of help us get started. So I'd like to thank you both enormously. We're really very grateful to you. And please look out for our next webinar invitation. You'll be getting them in the emails. Thank you both, Angelique.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.